With the spooky Halloween season upon us, I figured now is the perfect time to reminisce about my favorite TV series to watch during this time of year, Tales from the Crypt. Strangely enough, I'm more drawn to the episodes that feel real. These stories hit differently compared to the more exaggerated tales of witches and vampires. So, with that in mind, here are my top 5 spooky yet realistic stories from Tales from the Crypt. What better way to kick off the list than with the episode that started it all, the very first one. This story follows Niles Talbot, a former executioner who loses his job when the death penalty is abolished. But instead of accepting the new law, Niles takes matters into his own hands, becoming a vigilante and executing criminals he believes have escaped justice. What makes this episode so terrifying isn't anything supernatural. It's Niles' cold, calculated justification for his actions. He truly believes he's doing the right thing, which is what makes his twisted sense of morality feel eerily real. The man who was death is a chilling reminder of how power can corrupt, and how easily someone in authority can cross the line between justice and murder. Niles doesn't see himself as a killer, he sees himself as necessary. That kind of twisted logic is all too realistic, which is why this episode remains one of the most unsettling in the series. As with many Tales from the Crypt episodes, it ends with an ironic twist, but I won't spoil it for you. Let's just say, justice has a funny way of catching up to you. Abuse of power is timeless, and this story still feels disturbingly relevant today. In our second spot, we have a chilling episode titled Mute Witness to Murder. The story begins with Susie, a young woman living in an apartment, who witnesses a horrific scene. A man brutally murdering a woman in the apartment across from hers. The shock of this trauma renders Susie mute. In a panic, her husband Larry calls for help, bringing in a doctor to examine her. But to their horror, the doctor who arrives is Dr. Trask, the very man Susie saw commit the murder. As Larry explains Susie's condition, Dr. Trask realizes that Susie has witnessed his crime. In the chaos that follows, Susie instinctively grabs a golf club to defend herself, but accidentally strikes Larry, compounding the terror of the situation. Seizing the opportunity, Dr. Trask drugs Susie and admits her to a mental hospital, where he holds a high-ranking position. He manipulates Susie's silence, recounting his disdain for his loud wife and confessing to his crime, all while using his authority to control her. Later, Larry visits Susie at the hospital and tries to communicate with her. Just as he begins to uncover the truth about Dr. Trask, the doctor murders him right in front of Susie, leaving her a mute witness to another horrific act. In a final twist, Dr. Trask reveals his plan to perform a lobotomy on Susie, hoping to silence her forever. But Susie, now pushed to the brink, discovers that she can speak again. The next morning, when Trask removes her straitjacket, she fights back. During the struggle, Trask suffers a heart attack, a result of the stress from their altercation. As he lies dying, he begs Susie for help, still thinking she can't speak.
You can't speak.
Oh, yes, I can.
In a powerful moment, she reveals her voice.
You deserve to die.
Murderer!
Like you.
Coldly retorting, like you. The episode ends with Susie repeatedly saying "died" into a video monitor, notifying the staff that Dr. Trask has succumbed to a heart attack. Her haunting repetition underscores the psychological toll the ordeal has taken on her.
Dead.
Showing that while she regained her voice, the trauma may have driven her to madness. Four-sided triangle. The story follows Mary Jo, a young runaway who is living in a remote farm and working under the oppressive control of George and Louisa Yates. George has been blackmailing her and treating her badly. One day, he assaults her and leaves her with a head wound. After escaping into the cornfields, she imagines a scarecrow coming to life. When the Yates find her, she becomes progressively more erratic, talking about her man and how she wants him to make love to her. George dismisses her behavior as craziness, but her condition continues to deteriorate. Louisa becomes suspicious of what's going on, and George grows increasingly obsessed with Mary. At night, Mary runs off to see the scarecrow, convinced it's her lover. Louisa begins to realize what's going on and confronts George.
You know what I'd do to you if I caught you cheating on me, don't you? Same thing you do to bulls when you want them to be steers.
When she goes searching for them one night, she finds the scarecrow with its clown face and stabs it with a rake. Only to discover George's body underneath. Mary grabs the keys to the farm's working car and runs off, singing about her newfound freedom. The episode titled, "And All Through the House" of Tales from the Crypt begins on a quiet Christmas Eve in the seemingly peaceful town of Pleasantville. The classic holiday tune, "Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire," plays in the background as Joseph Kamen reads A Christmas Carol by the fireplace. The peaceful scene is interrupted when Joseph asks his wife, Elizabeth, to tend to the fire. With the poker already in hand, she coldly plunges it into his head, killing him instantly. The loud thud awakens their young daughter, Carrie Ann, who believes Santa Claus has arrived. Elizabeth quickly ushers her daughter back to bed, masking her sinister actions with a sweet smile, telling her she already got what she wanted for Christmas. Elizabeth then calls her lover, eagerly informing him of the murder and her impending inheritance. As she prepares to dispose of Joseph's body, dragging it outside with grim efficiency, a news bulletin on the radio warns of an escaped maniac dressed as Santa Claus who has already killed 4 people.
Have issued an all-points bulletin this evening for a male Caucasian reported to have brutally murdered 4 women in the Pleasantville area. County authorities say that the man, a patient at the Pleasantville Institute for the Criminally Insane, escaped earlier this evening and should be considered extremely dangerous. Officials confirm that the suspect is a heavyset man in his late 40s and is reported to be wearing a Santa Claus suit stolen from the home of one of his victims.
Oblivious to the danger, Elizabeth throws Joseph's body near a well, but in a sudden twist, he grabs her throat before finally succumbing to his injuries. Just as she catches her breath, Elizabeth hears a sleigh bell ringing from the woods. The escaped Santa, wielding an axe, attacks her. She manages to defend herself, slashing his face with an icicle and kicking him before escaping inside the house. In a panic, she calls the police, but her anxiety grows as she realizes she left Joseph's body outside, a perfect scapegoat for the deranged Santa. As she devises a plan to frame the maniac for her husband's murder, Santa breaks into the house. But she knocks him out with the axe. When the police call to warn her about the killer, Elizabeth decides to stage the scene by embedding the axe in Joseph's face, and calls the authorities to report the maniac's presence. However, to her horror, she looks outside and sees Santa pull the axe out of Joseph's head, now fully alive. Elizabeth's plan unravels as she frantically tries to escape but accidentally locks herself in the closet. Meanwhile, Carrie Ann, in her room, spots Santa climbing a ladder to the house. Excited to meet him, she opens the window and pulls him up. Elizabeth, having freed herself from the closet, runs upstairs, only to find her daughter missing.
No! Carrie!
Carrie Ann's voice calls out from downstairs, and Elizabeth rushes to find her in the living room. But before she can breathe a sigh of relief, Carrie Ann reveals the chilling truth. She let Santa in. The episode ends with Santa menacingly asking, "Naughty or nice?" as Elizabeth is left screaming in terror, trapped by the very killer she thought she could outsmart.
naughty or nice?
For the fifth and final episode of the series, Cutting Cards, we delve into a tale of reckless gambling and obsession. The episode begins with Reno Crevice, a tough cowboy who returns home after spending a year in Las Vegas. His first stop is the local city casino, where he heads straight for the high-stakes poker table. At the bar, he grabs a drink, and the bartender gives him a warning about the chip leader, Sam Forney.
Nothing much changes. When were you here last?
About a year ago.
Well, the guy you gotta watch out for here is Sam Forney. He's one big-time player, let me tell you.
He ain't nothing but a two-bit hustler. I beat him lots of times in Vegas.
Unfazed, Reno explains that he's acquainted with Sam, having encountered him several times before. When he reaches the poker table, he finds Sam casually playing solitaire, having beaten every other player in town. The tension between the two is palpable as they exchange biting taunts, recalling past bets.
I used to have a regular game back here with Gibbons and Norris and a bunch of the boys.
They don't come around here anymore. I cleaned them all out. I guess they weren't used to my kind of competition.
You trying to tell me something, Sam?
Yeah, I am, Reno. I'm just reminding you. I'm the best. I wouldn't want you to forget that.
Reno once won $10,000 from Sam, and in return, Sam won a Cadillac from Reno, which led to an awkward conversation with his wife. Their years-long rivalry has pushed them to the brink of insanity, as evidenced by their outrageous bets. Despite being broke, Reno is insistent on playing a game with Sam. Sam agrees, but on one condition. If Reno loses, he has to leave town forever.
Deal.
Only one problem. You're broke.
I got $100 in my pocket. I ain't asking you to stay.
$100 don't mean nothing to me, but there is one thing that I want, and I want it real bad. I want you out of my life for good. I really don't like you, Reno. You show up and right away things just go to shit. 5 or 6 times you and I hooked up and somebody always gets burned in the end, so I'm willing to play. See who leaves, clears out of town, out of state for good, okay? We got a deal?
You're on.
They start the game with a simple roll of the dice, each rolling a pair of 6s. The tie only ignites their thirst for danger. Reno then suggests they play Russian roulette, but Sam hesitates at first. Sam retrieves a revolver from his car, and the two engage in a nerve-wracking showdown in a parking lot, passing the loaded gun back and forth, pulling the trigger each time.
Hey, you want me to leave the keys in it?
Park it yourself, asshole!
Who you calling an asshole?
You heard my friend. Get the hell out of here.
Hey, take it easy, no problem.
When they reach the final chamber, Reno discovers the bullet was a dud. Enraged, the two blame each other for cheating.
Buddies say that Reno Crevice didn't have the balls to do it. I want him to say that he went out strong. God. A dud?
What happened?
You put a ringer in. You're playing the whole thing. That's why you wanted to go first. You thought I'd crawl? You set the chamber. You gave it a spin. How was I to know it'd come up last? That ammo, 2 or 3 years old. Maybe it got wet. Ah, you can't talk your way out of this fucking thing.
Sam proposes an even more sinister game, chop poker. They go to a secluded spot where the game is overseen by 2 bodyguards and a dealer. Reno wins the first hand with 3 queens over Sam's 2 pair and without hesitation chops off Sam's right pinky finger with a meat cleaver.
Careful, only one.
Laughing at Sam's newly impaired ability to shuffle, Reno wins the next hand and takes Sam's ring finger. Despite his agony, Sam manages to win a hand and cuts off Reno's left index finger in retaliation.
Pair of 10s.
pair of jacks.
Yeah, I knew I should have gone for that fucking flush. I'll make a deal with you, Sam. I'll give you back one of your goddamn fingers. We'll get the doc here to sew it on.
No way. I'm on the roll now. You're gonna be changing your rodeo gloves for a pair of knit mittens, cowboy.
No, wait a second. Easy. Jeez, aim that goddamn thing straight.
Oh, don't worry. It don't hurt that bad.
Oh, God damn!
Time passes, and the episode cuts to the two gamblers in a hospital. Their rivalry remains fervent as ever. They continue to argue about who is the better checker player and who has better luck. Sam ominously threatens to pass the gun, indicating their bitter feud shall endure. Ending with a tense and darkly humorous note, their lifelong rivalry seems far from over, leaving the audience with a sinister yet intriguing conclusion. Of course, this is just one episode from this series that I, and many others, have grown up with. Even though it might not have been the most kid-friendly content, the Tales from the Crypt is an iconic horror comedy series that has left a lasting impact on popular culture. There are links in the comments should you wish to explore more of this cult classic series. Have a good night, and happy Halloween, everyone.